Michael's and Gelli Arts classes. I haven't been here last month because I was enjoying my summer. I hope you have been enjoying your summer too, but I'm happy to be back and hopefully inspire you today with some fun prints. So I heard that this month is Spanish Heritage Month in the US, and it is something, I'm not Spanish and I'm in the Netherlands, and it is something that, as far as I know, I couldn't find anything about it, is not being celebrated in the Netherlands. So I had to Google it. And if you are familiar with my work, you can imagine that I was happily surprised when I saw all the beautiful patterns and all the colors and everything. So I was definitely inspired by Spanish heritage. And today I'm going to show you how you can create your own tools to make fun prints that are that have a Spanish feel. So I would say let's get creative. So I have my 5 by 7 inch Gelli Arts gel plate. I have it on a sheet and I have a couple of samples here that I created for this class, and I'm going to show you how you can create stamps and texture plates with craft foam to create your own fun patterns. So I'm going to start with creating a couple of backgrounds, and what I like to do, or what I did for these samples, is that I created one layer first with stripes of different colors, and then I added more stripes with colored patterns on top to create these prints. So there are a couple of different ways to create the first layer, and so I'm first going to make a couple of first layers so I can work on top of those layers once we made the tools, the stamps and the texture plates, but then these have some time to dry before we start creating the second layer. So I'm going to just pull out some of my favorite colors of paint. And today I'm using Liquitex Basic Acrylics, and I'm also using Winsor Newton Galleria. And I really like these paints for gel printing because they are really smooth and they roll out really easily, and you can create nice thin layers with them, but they have color, a lot of pigments in there. So I have a couple of colors here, and what you can do is add a few colors next to each other on the gel plate, and you have to make sure that you use tiny bits of color, because if you use several colors, you are often using too much color on your plate, because you have several little bits of paint. Instead of using one color, it's easier to use one color and to determine how much paint you need. This one is not going to work right now, but this is very similar, so I'm just going to take this one. So I have I need some paper. I forgot to put out some cleanup paper, so I'm just going to take some from my printer. Just regular copier paper from my printer. I like to use it for to clean my brayer and to clean off my stamps, and then when it's completely filled with color and paint and pattern, then I can use those also for my collage. But I will show you maybe later, if something nice comes out, what it looks like. So I dropped something on the floor. There we go. So I'm just going to use my brayer, and I'm putting my brayer down and lifting it up and putting it down again instead of doing this, because if you want a nice even layer of paint, that's the way to do it. Lift up your brayer, put it down again, and then when it's spread enough, the paint is spread enough, then you could go from left to right. But when you start spreading the paint, just go back to the beginning and roll it out. So now I'm going to just place my paper on top and rub it a little bit. And I will have my first background ready with a variety of colors. And the little white parts here are because my brayer is not clean. I saw it when I rolled out the paint. There's something on my brayer and that's picking up the paint. That's why I have these little thingies here. So let me see if I have another brayer. I have another one. Maybe that one is better. But that's okay. I mean, there's going to be more on top of this. And if you want perfect, then gel printing is not for you, I always say, because what I really like about gel printing is the kind of distress look you can create with it. Another, if you have a hard time getting the right amount of paint on your plate to do colorful stripes in one go, then you can also choose to work with one color, but then not print on one sheet. So you print on several sheets. So what I could do is take a yellow, roll it out on my entire plate, but then only pick up part of it with several sheets. So I could put this down like this and even rub it like this and pick it up. There's still some color from the previous print, but that's okay. And this way I can add the yellow to several sheets and then do the same with a second color and a third color and so on, as many colors as you like. So I think I will keep it at 4 parts so I can create 4 different backgrounds. And then I will have in total 5 to work on when my stamps are ready. And this way you can also use larger sheets of paper. So I'm now using this paper that's called Recollections paper from Michaels, and it's a nice, a little bit more heavy card, and it's very smooth and you can create very nice prints on it. And this size, the 4.5 by 6.5 inch, is just a little bit smaller than my plate, as you saw. But if, for instance, you want to work on a larger paper and you only have a small plate, then this might not be wide enough, but you can, of course, also turn the plate around and print like this. Let me show you what I mean. So put it like this and then use your paper like this. So you can use larger paper and just build up strips of color. I hope that made sense. Next color, we're going to add another one. And or if you're more comfortable using 2 colors instead of 4 colors, then that's also, of course, something that you could do. How about, let me see if I also have some orange maybe somewhere. I do have some orange. Okay, let me see. Now I have to be a little bit careful that, well, it's not really that I don't have to be that careful, but because it's totally okay if the colors overlap a little bit, but it also is nice if they are next to each other. So here I have my next color, and maybe if I do this one this way, because I can also come back and print the middle part of the plate if I want to. So for instance, if I would do this area first, and I want to make sure that the rest of the plate is clean, I can just put my cleanup paper on there to remove all the excess paint, and then I can decide to just print this on this sheet. And I don't worry too much about the lines being straight or being even, or even if there's a little bit of white in between, because with the layers that are going to be on top, you will not notice that anymore. And even if you do, I mean, that's what makes the prints interesting, I think. So another color. I can also decide to roll out color on only part of the plate. I don't have to fill the entire plate. I can also do just one line of color in the middle of the plate or at the bottom of the plate, wherever you like it to be, and then line it up with the color on that's already on my paper. Or maybe even easier is to start with the middle part of color and then add to it. So there are many ways to create backgrounds with lines. Whatever is your preferred way of doing it will be okay. There are no rights and wrongs. I want a little bit of pink in this area here. I think I have a little bit too much paint, so I have to roll it out a little bit wider, a little bit more. So I'm going to also put some pink on here. Yeah, why not? And some pink on. Let me see about here. There we go. And I need a couple more, and then I will start creating the stamps and the texture plates. What else? What other color? What color would you like me to use?
So Birgit, somebody just asked if they could use, I think, a sponge roller, or do they need to use a rubber roller?
The question was, what kind of roller?
I think a sponge roller.
No, a sponge roller will not work because the paint will actually, the roller will soak up the paint, and it usually has a texture. So when you use a sponge roller, you will always get the texture of the sponge roller in your paint. Unless, of course, that's what you want, then you could use a sponge roller. But you would need a lot of paint because a lot of the paint would actually be soaked up by the roller.
Yeah. And then somebody said they want you to use purple.
Purple of all colors. That's
All
so my least favorite color of all colors. But,
They must have known.
Yeah, it probably is somebody who knows. But I will use purple. Okay, I will do that.
That's so funny.
And actually sometimes I do use purple, and sometimes I am pleasantly surprised by what I get. But I have to be honest, I'm not really sure if I have like a real purple. I do have but this is more magenta, which I actually do like. And then I have this, and this is, yeah, brilliant purple. Okay, so I really, really don't like this color, but I am going to use it.
All right, and then somebody says that Christine says she's going to use red and blue of her Cuban flag colors.
Nice. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, of course you can do this with any color you like, and because of the Spanish Heritage Month and the colors that are used in their dresses and their clothing and everything, and in I think the banners they make and stuff like that, they are very colorful, and I really like color too. So I'm making my prints also colorful, but the technique itself and using the stripes of color and the stamps and texture plates also can be done with less color, or even with how do you call it, monochromatic colors or something like that. Of course, you don't have to make it as colorful as I'm doing, or at least trying to do. You can use any color you like. And this is going to be my final color on this sheet, and then we're going to do something different, I think, which is more fun, because this is not the most fun part of creating the prints, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to put these aside. They can dry a little bit, and then I'm also going to put my gel plate aside for a moment because I need the space. And I'm going to show you how you can create fun tools to print with, not only to create these kinds of prints, but any kind of prints. So I created a couple of stamps. And what I used are very basic supplies. Everybody probably has them at home, like a cork and some cardboard. And maybe you don't have this, but you can get it at Michael's in the kids department. It's like really cheap, and it's a foam, a craft foam with a sticky back. So you can remove the back, and then this is sticky, and yeah, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this foam. So what I did, I used a die cutting machine to punch out or die cut circles in different sizes from the foam. And I also die cut circles from cardboard, and I put 2 layers of cardboard on top of each other to make it a little bit more sturdy and a little bit thicker. But if you have like a cardboard that is not corrugated, but more like a pressed cardboard, you don't need something as thick as this. You can do 1 layer, probably enough. And I just used my Tacky glue to combine the cork and the cardboard to put them together. And then of course the foam has the sticky back, and you can just stick it on there, and there you have your stamp. So to create the texture in these stamps, you can use you could use a ball pen, something like this, or even a pencil. But what I really like is to use an embossing tool. It has 2 little balls at both sides, a bigger one and a smaller one, and they are also available in different sizes. And I like to draw in the foam with my embossing tool, and you create a texture in your foam when you put pressure on your embossing tool or your pen or whatever you're using. And it's not now I have to think for a moment about the English word. It's not like bouncing back. So the texture is actually staying in that foam. So you can create any design, draw any design you like from very simple. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's sharp, but I think you can see it in your foam, and create a stamp this way. So you can be as creative as you want, but you can also keep it very simple. Simple sometimes gives the best prints ever. And then you just apply it to the cardboard. And the nicest is if your cardboard has the same size as your foam, because then you don't get that when you move your stamp, that you get your outline printed into your paint, if you know what I mean. So it's best to have it exactly the same size. And the other thing that you can do is put your foam on a transparency or an acetate sheet, and this way you create kind of a texture plate. And that is of course very handy if you have designs that are bigger than your biggest die cut, circle die cut. So, or you have to cut it by hand, but cutting circles by hand from cardboard is really hard. Personally, I would stick to the die cutting machine. And if it's bigger than my circles, then I use something else to put my design on. And in this case, that's an acetate sheet. And what I have here is the also Recollections clear acetate sheets, and you can just buy it like this. And it's flexible, so you can bend it, which is nice if you want to do prints, but it's sturdy enough to hold your foam. And I have some more designs here. So here I have a really big one, and I wanted it to be a little bit more sturdy, a little bit less flexible, because it's such a big item. So I've put 2 layers of foam. So I've put 1 full sheet of foam, and then I've put my design on top of that. So you get more sturdy, more like a real texture plate. And this can be used over and over and over again. You can even clean the foam with a baby wipe or with a wet cloth, because it does that doesn't affect the foam. And if you clean it a little bit after using it with acrylic paint, then it will last longer, because eventually you can imagine that the paint is also going to be in these lower areas, into the lines that you have been drawing, and then you lose the texture, of course. If you would use it with ink, then it would last forever, because then it's not like clogging up those lines. And if you have, you can also make strips like this with the acetate sheet, and just create a design on a longer strip, and then so it covers like a whole strip on your prints, like here. So this one with a little what are they called? I can't remember the simplest words.
You mean triangles?
Triangles. Yeah, so it's a very different word in Dutch. It's called driehoek.
Oh, yeah, that's very different.
It's very different. Or you can use, if you have decorative scissors, for instance, you can just cut strips and create a texture that way. So to create the triangles, I'm not the type of person that uses rulers and measurements and cutting it exactly straight and even. So what I like to do, and also I'm not very patient, so that's also a reason why I don't use those items. I want to be quick and easy. So what I like to do when I need triangles is to just cut a strip, and I might do that actually with a craft knife and a ruler, but I don't have it on hand here, but this works too. And if you have a strip like this and you want to create quick triangles, I just go like this, cut, 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 and they are not all exactly the same size, but that's okay. That's fine with me. I like it when it's a little bit off. And I have a whole bunch of triangles in no time. So I can use these as they are, and then I will have a solid triangle, or I can create a texture in them like I did here, and you get a texture triangle. If you want the texture, then it's easier to create the texture before you cut the triangle, because it is a little bit hard to create the texture in every single triangle, especially because it kind of lifts up when you do this. So that's quite a lot of work. It's easier to just do it with the whole strip, create lines in the whole strip. And also here, I'm not being too precise. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then after you've done that, you can do the cutting. And then you will have triangles with texture. It's just as simple as that. Now, and then you take a strip of acetate, glue them on, and you have a texture to use on your gel plate. So it's that easy. And of course, I already have some made, because I don't want you to sit and watch me gluing down all these little parts. That takes forever. And I'm pretty sure you understand how that works. So I'm just going to use the ones that I already made. And you can use them as stamps to stamp on your background directly. But you can also use them to take paint from the plate and create a negative. So I'm going to show you both ways. And I have to bring my gel plate back. Okay, like this, and just taking some tape here. And I think I'm just going to quickly clean my plate, and a baby wipe should usually be enough, but mine are a little bit dry. Oh, it's still working. But in case you wonder how to clean your gel plate completely and like really well, then the answer is baby oil, or not necessarily baby oil. It can also be a natural oil like an olive oil or sunflower oil or whatever oil you have. But this will clean your plate completely. So even if you think your plate is clean, when you put oil on there and you start cleaning it, there will be a lot coming off still that you don't really see. Maybe you notice that my gel plate is not as clear as a new one. And it's not that my gel plate is dirty, it's more that it's been affected by pigments from all kinds of different mediums that I used on there, especially inks like permanent inks and archival inks and alcohol inks and stuff like that. The pigments of those mediums color my gel plate, and you will not be able to remove them, but they will not hurt or damage your plate, and they will also not affect future prints. So you don't have to worry about it when your gel plate turns yellow. And for some reason, it's mostly the yellows and the oranges that create those stains, but they don't come off, and the plate still works as perfectly as when it was still clear. The only thing is, if you have a plate that is like really, really yellow from alcohol ink, for instance, and you work on it with other inks, especially translucent inks, that the colors that you put on your plate don't look as they really are. So for instance, if it's like really yellow and you put translucent blue on there, it might look as if you have green ink on there, but when you pull the print, obviously it's going to be blue, but you have to just not worry about that. Okay, so let's make some prints, and I used quite different colors than I used in my samples. So let's see what we can make of this. I usually, I prefer to start with the lighter colors and then print with darker colors on top. That's because when you use a paint on a gel plate, you usually spread out your paint in a very thin layer. And even if you have opaque paint, it will still be kind of translucent when you put such thin layers on top of each other. So if I use a purple like I did here, and I would print on top with a yellow, my yellow would never look as bright as it is because it's translucent and the purple is underneath. So it's better to put purple on top of yellow, because that will not change as much of the color than it would be the other way around. So that's why I usually start with the lighter colors. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it the other way around, but you really need paint that is really opaque if you want to print lighter colors on top of darker colors and you want them to be opaque. So now I'm going to add layers, strips of texture and color to these backgrounds. And I'm going to show you the difference between using these as stamps and using them to remove paint from the plate. So when I use these as stamps, I use my gel plate as my stamp pad. So I do roll out paint on my plate, even though I'm not going to print directly from my plate. That is, if I can open my tube. There we go. So I'm going to roll this out, and this is going to be my acrylic paint stamp pad. And for instance, I want to use this stamp. I'm going to pick up the paint from my gel plate, and I might need a little bit more paint to get enough on my stamp. And now I can just stamp on my background. That is way better than using a sponge or a brush to apply the acrylic paint to my stamp, because with a sponge or a brush, I would be more likely filling up those lower parts and ruin my stamp. And this way the paint is actually really only on top of the stamp and not going into the lower parts, as you can see. So this is how I use it when I want to use my stamps as stamps. And now I'm just going to pick up the paint. Let me see if I can get, yeah, I can get everything off, I think. Almost clean. It's totally fine with me that it's not completely clean, because then in my next layer, some of that might show up, giving my prints a more distressed look. So if I want to use that same stamp, but instead of stamping it, I want to take paint from the plate, then I could, let me see which color. How about, yeah, let's just do this one. Magenta. And again, I'm going to roll out my paint, but this time I'm going to roll it out in a nice and even strip. And I have a little bit too much paint, so I'm also going to do one up here, because I really want a nice even layer of paint. If you have too much paint on your plate, then you can't get this nice even layer. You get a little bit of texture in your paint, and if you like that, then that's totally fine. I like it if my layers of paint are nice and smooth, so I like to spread it out more evenly. So now I can use my stamp to lift up paint from the plate, and in between I will dab it off, because a wet stamp with a lot of paint on it will not take up any paint from the plate anymore. It can only hold this much of paint, and then it's just not picking up anymore, but more like giving back, so you don't get that texture. And now I can just print it, and you will see that this gives a totally different effect than when you use it as a stamp. There we go. So that looks totally different than this one, and they're both fun, I think. But so you can use it two ways. Another thing that you can do when you have a layer of paint like this, instead of dabbing off that paint to your scrap paper, your cleanup paper, you can dab it off in an area on your plate where there's no paint. And so you can get both ways next to each other on your plate. And then you can print it. So I don't know about where you are, but here in the Netherlands, the last couple of days, summer really has turned into fall. So now you have two, as you can see, two lines next to each other. And it's really, really cold and windy and a lot of rain. And so my room is also not very warm. And these paints stay wet long enough for me to work with, especially when you use it with the stamps. You want it to be, you don't want it to dry too fast, because then you cannot pull up the print. So, but if you are in a very warm or dry area and your paint dries like really fast, then what you could do is use a different type of paint, like a golden paint, for instance, an open paint, which stays open much longer than these paints. But for me, that's a negative, because I like to work fast and keep going, and I don't like it if I have to wait for paint to dry. So that's why open paint is not my type of paint. But if you like a lot of working time, depending on the kind of prints that you are making, then you might consider using golden paints. Or if you already have these kinds of paints and you notice that your paints dry too fast for the thing you want to do with them, then you can use something like a slow dry blending medium. And I have one here from Liquitex, but they are also available from different brands. And you can add a few drops of this medium to your paint. And what I usually do is just put it straight onto my plate before I add the paint. I roll it out, so I have a very thin layer. It's only a few drops, a very thin layer of the blending medium, and then I put my paint on top. And while I'm rolling out my paint, it's going to mix with the blending medium, and I have a longer working time for my paint. So that could be a good tip for you. And then another thing is, this paint down here is already dry. So if I want to pick up this paint on one of my backgrounds, I need a new layer of paint to pick it up. But I already have a base color. I don't want another color picking up this, because I already have my color there. Then you could use a matte medium to pick up your paint instead of a different color of acrylic paint, because a gel medium is basically the same as an acrylic paint without the pigments, kind of. So it works also like an acrylic paint works. So what you can do is add a tiny little bit of gel medium, because the gel medium spreads even more. It's very fluid, especially this one. It's also called fluid medium, and that's why I like it so much. And it spreads very well. You need only a tiny little bit, and then you roll it out and you use it the same way as you would use your acrylic paint to pick up dried paint from the plate. And because the gel medium usually is quite wet, it needs a little bit more, I don't know, it needs to be convinced to actually pick up the paint or something like that. So I leave on my paper just a little bit longer for the matte medium to dry a little bit, so it pulls up the dried paint easier than it would when it's still wet. So the chance that you pick it up more successfully is bigger if you leave it to dry a little bit. That's a hard thing for me. I don't like to wait, as I said, but I know from experience that my prints turn out better if I give them the time to dry a little bit before I pull them off. So I'm just going to see, and look at that. Everything is gone from my plate and it's now here on my background. And it's not like a perfect texture, but this makes me happy. I don't know about you, but it makes me happy. So I can keep going and making patterns until all of my backgrounds are filled and I have prints like these. And I will just keep adding paint to my plate, but meanwhile, maybe I can answer some questions. Are there any questions?
So we don't have any questions, but maybe they'll pop up now. So let's see.
Yeah. You can ask me anything you want to know about the gel plate. It doesn't really have to be about this specific topic. If you have any questions about the gel plate, about how to clean it or to store it or whatever, let us know and I will be happy to answer.
I think we're all mesmerized. I don't think I've ever seen you print in such, they're not like perfect layers, but they're awfully good.
They are nice, aren't they?
Yes.
I like, but that's really what I like about gel printing, that it's never going to be perfect. I mean, it depends on what you consider to be perfect, but if you want perfect, then you should just print it out on your laser printer or your inkjet printer, right?
Yeah.
It's
mentioned that they made a Cuban stamp with styrofoam.
Oh, yeah, of course you can do that too, because you can also create texture in there. And that's a great way of creating stamps. I think it's in one of the Gelli Arts kits also, right?
Yeah, and we have styrofoam in our stamping kit. Yeah.
Exactly, because it's so perfect to create stamps actually. And it's also, I think it's cheap, right? It's really cheap. Right. It's really cheap to create a fun pattern. But look at this. I mean, don't you like this? I mean, that's really cool. Yes. Yeah, I think that's cool too. It's the distressed look and bits of paint that stay behind. And yeah, I can get really excited about stuff like that.
Somebody did ask, and maybe you can talk to them again about it, but they, how do you clean the roller and the gel plate and how do you store it?
Yeah, okay. So I showed before already in this session how you can clean it, like really clean it with baby oil. I'm not somebody who cleans their gel plate like every time when I use it. So for instance, if this would be my last print, I would probably just leave my plate like this. And when I start gel printing again, some way this will come off in my future prints and add texture and color to my future prints. And I really like that because I don't like to have like really clean prints. So I would just keep my plate like this. But if you want to clean it, then you can, when the paint is still quite wet, or it's only thin layers, then you can just use a baby wipe or a wet cloth, but you can also use the baby oil if it's like more harder to get off. And you can also just wash it with, how do you call it, lukewarm water and a little bit of soap, and then just dry it and it's ready to use again. And to store it, best thing to do is to put it between 2 sheets of copier paper and then put it in the original tray that it came in, and store it like that. And you always have to make sure that there is nothing between the paper and the plate, because everything that creates some kind of pressure into your plate while you store it will create that texture into your plate, and you will see it in your prints. So when you store it between paper, then you have to make sure that your plate is clean. So when I leave the paint on my plate, like I said before, then I will not store it between the paper, because then there is paint on the plate that might create texture in my gel plate, and that's not what I want. So that's for the plate. And if you talk about the brayer, what I usually do, I just roll off my brayer on my scrap paper that I have on my side. And that's usually good enough for a couple of sessions. And then slowly layers of paint start to build up. Sometimes I just don't clean my brayer so long that I can kind of peel off the paint, because it's like the acrylic paint is like a kind of plastic, and so this is not thick enough to tear it off, but you can sometimes just tear it off. But what I usually do when my brayer is like this and I feel like I need to clean it, I put it in a bucket with water overnight. Usually that's enough, but if that's not enough to get it off, then I take a washing detergent, like a powder that has enzymes, and the enzymes make the paint come off your brayer. And if you put it in there overnight, then in the morning you just have to rinse your brayer under water, and then you will have a brand new brayer. So that's my tip for brayers.
Okay, and I'll add my tip. Can I add my tip? So
yeah,
did you mention the Murphy's oil soap? So if you use that soap and you just use like a half a cup in a bucket of water, warm water, and put your brayer in there, it doesn't take long, maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and the paint will come right off. And I love to use that to take the paint off any of my stencils. It works just really, it's easy and it's nice. So that's
sounds perfect. We don't have that here in the Netherlands, so I can't use that, but that sounds like the best solution ever. 15 minutes, that's great. Nice, nice, nice. I'm going to do another layer of stamping. So I'm going to add, okay, I'm going to do purple again. For that one person that wanted me to use purple, I'm going to do another layer of purple. I might even start to like it. And how about some more stamping? I could use this one and stamp it on here. So when I do it this way, I have one row on this sheet, but then I can also pull up this row, this line of colorful texture, and have 2 in 1. So I had a little bit too much paint here. It didn't pick up enough from the plate because, as I said, you need a really thin layer, because otherwise you just simply can't lift up all the paint. But that's okay. I'm just going to also pick up this one because I think that's really a nice one. And I don't want to waste that paint. And I think when I look at the clock that this has to be my last pull. So I didn't get to complete all of these, but I can go through these real quick and tell you what I did. And I'm pretty sure by now it's clear to you what I did. So here I used the triangles to stamp, and here I used the negative from the plate. This, of course, is also stamped. This is again where I used the strip to pull paint from the plate. And this is also again stamped. This is also stamped. Oh, to create the little dots here, I actually just used the back of my, my brush, this, and I just took paint from the plate and just put it there. Just look around and you will find tools to use on your gel plate all the time. This is just a bottle cap, and it already had the texture, so I thought that was fun. And yeah, decorative scissors to create the lines. It's really not that hard to create some fun tools. Let me see if I can pick up this paint down here. I hope that worked. And it did. Ah, nice. And everything came off here.
Yeah, that's so pretty. That's nice.
I like it too. So I hope that this inspired you to create your own tools. And if you do, and you create something and you share online, then please tag us at Gelli Arts. We would love to see what you create. My next class actually is already next week, end of next week. It's a premium class and it's about color theory. And so if you wonder how to mix colors or how to avoid mud on your plate and how to play with contrast and stuff like that, then that might be the class for you. I hope to see you there. And otherwise, I hope to see you again next month for some new free classes. We're going to do some fun stuff, fall printing with pen pastel. We're going to make notebooks. So keep an eye on the website, and I hope to see you there again. For now, I wish you a pleasant, a beautiful day or evening or night, wherever in the world you are, and see you soon. Bye-bye.